Prequels can be a mixed bag. Some are good, some are not. In college, my best friend told me about this little movie coming out called Silence of the Lambs. I hadn't seen Manhunter, so I was going in blind. This was not a true sequel, but still based on the same literary universe by Thomas Harris. Sir Anthony Hopkins stole the show despite having only, less than 20 minutes of screen time? He was evil, intelligent, always a step ahead, even in custody, in control of every situation. He earned that Oscar. Hannibal would return in a sequel, but it didn't quite have the same effect on me. But I now know what Ray Liotta's brain looks like. Hopkins returned to the role one more time, but this time in a prequel directed by Brett Ratner. A simple remake of the aforementioned Manhunter? Does it have anything more to bring, or is it just a formulaic retread? Before Silence of the Lambs, there was Red Dragon. Red Dragon takes us back before Silence of the Lambs. Right up to it, in fact. A flutist? Some guy who plays a flute is playing off key. Some may notice it, others may tolerate it. I'm ashamed to say I missed it on my first few viewings. But some music fans may take offense to this and, I don't know, kill you, cook you, and feed you to fancy dinner guests. Meet Hannibal Lecter, serial killer, gourmet, and impulsive music critic. So what wine goes with human flesh? I'm asking for a friend. Enter FBI agent Will Graham, played by Edward Norton, who'd been consulting Hannibal on a multiple murder case. And Graham's got an interesting theory.
And then it hit me. Liver, kidney, tongue, thymus. Every single victim lost some body part used in cooking.
Oh, I'd love to get you on my couch.
Slow down there, Bill Cosby. How about you feed me some Kentucky Fried Flutist first, and then we'll talk.
You're the best forensic psychiatrist I know. And somehow, in all our time together, this possibility never occurred to you.
Maybe it's just gross?
Won't be a tick.
While going through Hannibal's library, he finds something incriminating in a book. This leads to his house light bulb moment. Oh my god, the killer is Gordon Ramsay. It all makes sense. Stab! Alright, you might be wondering what this has to do with anything. Sweetbreads are foods prepared from those very same body parts they just mentioned a few seconds ago. If you knew your way around a kitchen like I do, you wouldn't need to be able to read French to understand this. I googled it. How is that bread? It would have been too on the nose if he opened an anatomy text and found a post-it note marked pizza toppings.
You're in shock now. In a moment, you'll begin to be lightheaded.
And then he gets angry. Oh wait, he doesn't do that anymore. Ruffalo got the job. It doesn't matter. Hawkeye still got his back. Never stab someone with a backup piece. Wow, that was fast. Well, this was a flashback, showing how Hannibal wound up in the nut house we find him in during Silence of the Lambs. We're brought up to speed via newspaper clippings and John Doe notes. These days we just catch up on his Twitter story. Son, hot wife, boat, forming a new fight club is just around the corner. Jack Crawford, this time played by Harvey Keitel, recruits Will to work on this week's episode, I'm in Case.
It wouldn't be very useful to you anyway. I don't think about this stuff anymore.
But you've got that other thing. Imagination, projection.
A better agent? Careful, he'll twist his arm clean off. Well, let's back to selling weed. Will looks over the crime scene. Staged movie set or not, there's something really chilling about the silent story a scene like this tells. Mustn't masturbate. Fight it! Fight it! Oh, this place is so haunted now.
Small pieces of mirror were inserted in the orbital sockets of the victims.
Maybe he's just really vain.
He wanted an audience.
Wouldn't that make it weird?
He wanted them all lined up, watching him when he touched her.
How can you not look cool dictating into a tape recorder? Note to self, buy an actual tape recorder. This is a Fire Stick remote.
He won't stop.
Why not?
Because it makes him God. Would you give that up?
Do I get a hammer? And Will hates this sleazy tabloid reporter, Lowndes, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. I miss him. He was one of my favorite actors. But he's kinda stuck, so Will has to dip back into the Hannibal pool for help. Hey, we know this guy. At least he's not throwing spooge on you, so you're ahead of the game.
I need your advice, Dr. Lecter.
You want to know how he's choosing them, don't you?
God, I missed you, man. I missed you too. It didn't really go like that. I'm going to ask you a question, you're going to tease me with a cryptic response, and I'm going to come back for more. Sometimes the question isn't who is the killer, but why is the killer? Today, it's a questionable upbringing by Grandma Lorena's hideous overreaction to a bedwetting incident.
Look at you. You're soaking wet. Get out of my bed.
No.
If you ever make your bed dirty again, I'll cut it off. Understand?
Then you'll just get pee and blood everywhere. See, I think about stuff like this. Why do I think about stuff like this? They have to walk Lecter every day, otherwise he just makes a mess inside. We get some insight from Lecter, but if Will is as clever as everyone says he is, this stuff should have been obvious to him.
I think he meant to use the bolt cutter to enter the house, but he didn't.
I guess some people just know how to market themselves. We finally get a good look at our killer, the media dubbed the Tooth Fairy. Hey, with a name like that, I'd be homicidal too. Ralph Fiennes. Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes plays Francis Dolarhyde. We'll call him Mr. D from now because Free Fiennes is too hard to say. Damn it! He works at a photo lab. Remember those? He meets Reba, played by Emily Watson, a blind film specialist. And he takes an instant liking to her. Something about her innocence, her charm, or the fact that she can't pick him out of a lineup.
Whoa. I'm not interrupting anything here, am I?
You bring her body back at a respectable hour, young man. You know, this would be a sweet story in another movie, but here it's just unsettling. It's like watching Lady and the Tramp, but with Cujo.
A note hidden in Lecter's cell. Sounds like a fan letter might have been mailed by the Tooth Fairy.
Mr. D is also a Hannibal Lecter superfan. Coded messages remind him to drink his Ovaltine and murder Will's family.
Lecter gave the bastard your home address. Wait.
Well, they're safe. Pissed off and terrified, but safe. This did give us a reason to teach Molly how to use a gun. You know, this just means she's going to shoot someone later. To draw out the Tooth Fairy, they print an unflattering article in the local tabloid, penned by our man Lowndes. Man, could he play scummy. But Mr. D also hates fake news.
Is that your fucking name on the sign?
Lowndes learns not to fall asleep at an AMC theater. If AMC Theaters is watching, I am totally joking. Please keep those passes coming.
According to you, I'm a vicious, perverted sexual failure. A bottom-feeding lowlife who's about to go down in flames.
Harvey Weinstein? Okay, we all know that guy who loves showing off his tattoo. Look at him, he's so proud. I did this for you, mummy.
I am the dragon, and you call me insane.
Oh, great, he's got slides too. Just kill me. Will you stop kissing people?
Oh, fucking idiot!
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the Flaming Wheelchair.
We can let this tie us up in knots.
Well, none of us liked him anyway, so lunch? Mr. D takes his new blind girlfriend to the zoo so she can feel up a sleeping tiger. There's a metaphor hidden in here somewhere. That's his anus. Nothing like the zoo to get one in the mood. Well, talk about the blind leading the blind. Well, seriously, this scene where Mr. D is showing Reba his little D while choosing his next victim is really chilling. Thank God she's blind because this would be way too awkward to explain. But Mr. D likes Reba and really doesn't want to hurt her, despite what the voices in his head is telling him. So the key to stopping a serial killer? Get him some action. Yeah, even in a thriller, we get the second act breakup.
Get out now.
I guess psychopaths can't be happy either. Will finally starts piecing together Hannibal's cryptic hints and puts two and two together. Both victims had these cheesy videotapes made. This was before iPhones and viral videos, and you typically needed professional help to do some fancy home movies. Both tapes were made at the company Mr. D works at. Just as the feds start poking around his job, Mr. D decides to accelerate his timetable. First he makes up with Reva.
Please don't hurt me now.
Okay, you first. Time to comfort the victim.
There was plenty wrong with Dolarhyde, but there's nothing wrong with you. Except your hair.
Or kick her when she's down. Nice. As a reward, Will gets to read from Mr. D's diary. That's not cool, bro. I'm sure he's got like horny stuff in there. Back home with the family, turns out the story isn't quite over.
Drop it. Do it now, Gumshoe.
Son Josh finds out Dad makes memes. He peed. Mr. D peed. Use it.
Look at you. You pissed your pants?
Fuck you, Dad.
Or I will cut it off. I'm a dirty little beast.
I love how Will's abuse actually shifts Dolarhyde's stance from one of menace to protection. I guess even lunatics have feelings. A very clever, if somewhat obvious ploy.
Freak. Hair lip. And no one will ever love me.
But no need to get personal. Will finally grabs a gun and they blast each other through the door. They shoot each other, and for once Hollywood remembers that wood is not bulletproof. But we still need a kill shot.
Shoot him.
A great marriage is based on knowing your spouse has your back. Mr. D is finally dead, Molly killed a man, Josh is a chronic bedwetter, and Will apparently heals like Wolverine. They'll be fine. One last scene with Hannibal serving as a direct segue into Silence of the Lambs.
A young woman says she's from the FBI, though she's far too pretty, if you ask me.
I mean, really, the next scene would be Clarice walking in. Miggs, get to churning, buddy. We're gonna have company. And that was Red Dragon. The main storyline of Will's pursuit of the Tooth Fairy is engaging enough, but without the extremely horrific nature of his crimes and Hannibal's involvement, Red Dragon would be a fairly standard procedural. It needed to be extreme to stand out. Will is a character that seems to need to be obsessed. Even in retirement, he's thinking of his old job and practically leaps at the opportunity to be useful again. It's almost as if he needs the distraction of putting away bad guys to make up for the one that almost killed him and destroyed his mind. I don't think he comes across as damaged enough, but he's still a smart guy who knows how to exploit weakness. Francis Dolarhyde is a good example of the monster next door that everyone ignores until they make the news. His isolation, his tragic upbringing, his loneliness and disfigurement make him a somewhat sympathetic character. Not that his behavior is excused, but we do see the factors that created this monster, and he almost can't help himself. His relationship with Reva was doomed from the start, but seeing Mr. D almost happy and being totally unprepared to handle it was just tragic. Yes, touch that tiger while he sleeps, because once he wakes, he'll kill you, put mirrors in your eyes, and eat your books. For a while, I really thought she was blind in real life. She was that convincing. Everyone loves Hannibal Lecter, and Anthony Hopkins does not disappoint. Despite being a relatively small part of the main story, he doesn't contribute too much, but I think he helps Will face his demons. Of course, Hannibal is just toying with him. It's not like Hannibal wants to help him, but he gives him just enough to keep Will involved. There's plenty of suspense and dread, even with the romantic subplot. Everything has a sense of doom to it. With a cast this good, you're going to get some outstanding performances. Red Dragon takes the franchise back to its roots, back to what made Silence of the Lambs work without retreading too much. Alright, there are some similarities, but it also feels different enough to stand on its own. I don't see them being able to make another story along these lines, and the next movie was another prequel that went back even further when Hannibal was just a kid. I remember nothing about that movie. A thriller like this doesn't need a lot of action. The reveals are frequent and the characters are mesmerizing. The sinister tone is set up early and it doesn't let up. Red Dragon is a 4 out of 5. Chilling, unsettling, just the right amount of Hannibal Lecter. If you're a fan of Silence of the Lambs, you'll enjoy Red Dragon. As prequels go, it's pretty good. If you like this video, give a thumbs up and subscribe. Or not, no pressure. Let's say Hannibal Lecter was your neighbor. Would you attend his barbecue? Aren't you a little curious? This is theNewBee, and as always, thank you so much for watching.